Movie theaters are modern-day pulpits. Real-world theology exists to shed a light on the narratives that are shaping our culture, and to remind viewers that entertainment is not mindless.
I am recording. And I'm very disappointed in both of you for not dressing up. I decided to cosplay, and now I feel all weird. That has nothing to do. Well, it's a video game, but I'm blue shirt guy. Yes. Now, to be fair, I'm the only one.
There can be only one blue shirt guy.
Well, but
I'm not buff enough to pull off dude.
I mean, the kid, he was dressing up as blue shirt guy in the movie, right?
Yeah.
So, see, there could be more than one.
Fun fact. Don't own any blue shirts.
Don't own any blue shirts?
Not of that color that I'm aware of. My
this
wardrobe
isn't the right color exactly either, but
well, yeah. I mean, not, we're talking like if it's blue, it's like a gray blue, like a dark. If you, in a similar manner to Guy, when you open up my closet, all of my shirts are either black or this kind of color of gray. Like I don't.
You don't have to think about it.
I'm
just
on
grab
that Steve Jobs train, right?
And you go right
like
through.
If all my clothes are basically the same, I don't waste any creative or mental energy on what I'm going to dress that day. I just go and I pick out, charcoal colored shirt with whatever fun design on it. Like it usually doesn't matter, and or a black shirt.
I've often thought that you're a lot like Steve Jobs in very many ways, so that doesn't surprise me a whole lot.
We're basically the same person,
with the notable exception that he's dead.
I mean, earlier today I felt dead. So, again, basically the same thing.
You felt a connection between him and you.
Yeah, I'm just trying to carry this guy's call.
So,
oh my goodness, notes.
So I was inspired by you bringing up Ryan George and his pitch meeting segments. So I was thinking, how would I pitch Free Guy to somebody who hasn't seen it?
Did he not do this?
I think he did.
He probably did. But I was just thinking,
might not have, it's a good movie.
The whole premise, the setup. Okay, I'm pitching the meeting to somebody.
All right, this is how it's going. Let me set you up. Okay. Let me set you up. So you have a movie for me?
I do. So you've heard of Ryan Reynolds?
Yes.
So he's going to be in
I can't pull this off. I can't pull off Ryan George.
He has such intense energy, but he can cut it. He can do 6 takes, take as many cups of caffeine, as he wants to. But I was thinking, if you want to distill it down to like a little pitch meeting, kind of a little pitch, this is what, the movie is, this is what to expect. I would say it is a less serious, less dramatic Truman Show crossed with a more entertaining Ready Player One.
And less creepy Ready Player One.
Yes, less creepy as well.
Less problematic.
Yeah.
Like I don't think there's probably not a worse time for Ready Player One to come out than right before like the Me Too movement.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my goodness. I mean, like if Ready Player One would have been released, probably I don't know when the book was released, but it feels like it was a movie that was primed for like the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah. Except
for some of the stuff that didn't exist yet to reference, but
right.
Like that was the atmosphere for that to have existed.
Yeah.
But that's a good call, Ryan, because when my wife and I were thinking about seeing Free Guy, we saw the trailers, and then we got pushed back. We were like, oh, well, that'll be fun to go to, right? And we already talked about what our mindset was like in 2020 and 2021. So we were like, that'll be a fun thing to go to. It looks like a less serious Ready Player One. That's what it looks like. Lots of funny references.
Yeah,
right.
Little did we know how many references would be in there.
Yeah.
And then when we saw it, we were like, oh no, this isn't supposed to be really good, right? This is supposed to be just kind of Ryan Reynolds being wacky and making fun of Ready Player One.
Yeah,
but
it is that.
It is that.
But also, yes, I am. I'm going to second that, and I'm also going to say that in addition to Ready Player One, I'm also going to add on and Truman Show. I'm also going to add on Tron, because I think that it has some significant Tron vibes. I mean, the people from the outside world never actually go into the inner world, but there still is this element of meeting your maker, meeting your user, sort of feeling in it, and the real world versus the grid or the game world has that sort of dichotomy that you don't really see in most video game style movies. So I thought that was that you made a good call there. I think that you're right. I'm gonna one up you.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
So if that was your post feeling about the movie, how did you go into it, Ryan? Like, why were you going to go see it anyway? Like, what was?
I mean, I'm one of those hedonistic, heathens who went and loved Deadpool and Deadpool 2, and I'm like, oh, Ryan Reynolds, but a movie I could actually probably not feel bad about suggesting people go watch. Well, sign me up, of course. Deadpool, but okay for middle schoolers and things like that. It's like you said, Tron, but by way of Looney Tunes kind of a thing. And it's like, that's fun. That's like you said. So
I think that reminds me that probably still the most clicked on article that we ever wrote for Real World Theology was about like why Christians can watch Deadpool or something like that.
Yeah. That hits the right vein for the internet to latch on to.
Yeah, like what a simpler time, right? Like when that was what we argued about in Christian circles. Right. Like how bad of a movie can you watch? Not whatever we're arguing about now as Christians.
Oh, pick a topic.
Did you know, Mikey? I don't know if you caught this or not. Right at the end of Redeeming Culture's first life, I guess, Ryan wrote a book about Deadpool.
Book is very generous. It was going to be a very long article, but it wasn't based on the movies. It was actually a comic book run. So it was started as a joke, as most Deadpool runs are. Deadpool kills the universe. It was Deadpool kills, and it was so popular they had to make a second one. Deadpool Killustrated, where he goes. So, spoiler alert, if you don't want to hear this, I'll put something in the video that lets you skip past it. But in the first one, Deadpool goes and he kills everyone in the Marvel Universe because he's tired of being the punching bag of the universe. And so he goes and he kills Wolverine, he kills Professor X, he kills all these people, and then he's trying to go after the writers in the writer's room. So that way he can be free of this purgatory. And the second one, he goes and is like, hey, I'm still here. People still are writing comics about me. I have to go back and get rid of the inspiration that causes people to write these stories. So then he goes and he's killing off, Hercules and the Three Musketeers and Pinocchio and all these other literary things. And Sherlock Holmes is the only one trying to figure out what's going on, why all these different literary entities are disappearing. And then in the last one, there's a whole bunch of clones of him, and he's trying to kill every iteration of Deadpool that's ever been, and probably a lot that hadn't even existed yet, like Panda Pool and Dog Pool and Lady Pool and Zombie Pool and Head Pool, which is just Deadpool's head with a little helicopter hat flying around. So it was going to be a long, drawn-out article, and David said, well, let's put it all together as a book that people can download. And so it's a long article that you can peruse if you're, not going to read the comics themselves.
It's a book.
I wanted you to, actually, it's an online publication.
It's a free download, so we're not going to, have to worry about the hardcover versus paperback or anything like that.
This is how Ryan feeds his family.
Yeah. So I gotta say, I was excited about Ryan Reynolds, but I also had this but video game movies. I mean, video game movies, movies about video games are already bad enough, but we've had all of these video game movies, and they never seem like they really go where they want to. And I really like Tron, and this just seems like it's a kind of lamer version of that. And then they it was originally slated for July of 2020, and they pushed it back, and that was early enough to where like it was one of the first big ones that did push back, and I was like, oh well, that just means that they know it's going to be terrible, and not like thinking through, because they hadn't pushed back like Dune yet, right? And so I'm like, well, I'm clearly way more excited about Tenet. And then they pushed it back again in December, and I was like, at this point, I was like, well, maybe it could be okay. And then they pushed it back to the following May, and I was like, all right, at this point, because Ryan Reynolds is like keeping up with the marketing of all of it, right? Like every time he releases a video and he's like talking about it. And then in May, I think it was in May or around then, he released the one where he and Korg, where Deadpool and Korg talk about the movie, or react to the trailer. That's what it was. And I was like, okay, if the movie itself is as witty as this marketing campaign is, then I'm 110% in.
Well, and to warrant animating Korg and not just having Taika Waititi, who is in the movie, play Taika Waititi, it's like, okay, they have some faith in this now, huh?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So then when it got actually released, which was in August, I mean, we've talked extensively about the COVID calculus that was going through my head. So when the opportunity came up to go see it in a drive-in theater, I was like, well, yeah, absolutely, obviously. Like, there is nothing preventing me from that. I'm on board. So that was my going into it. Like, I was excited about it, not excited about it, and then excited about it again.
I gotcha.
Tentatively excited about it, and then not excited about it, and then excited about it.
Oh, and there was that caveat of, like, the weeks before me watching another movie and being like, I'm spent. So I did wait a week to go watch it because even though I was excited about it and I thought it was going to be, an empty theater when I went to see it, it was still like, I still want to have some energy to bring in there. That sort of a deal. But yeah, for Ryan Reynolds, just video game movie, it had some pretty good topics and juxtapositions and things like that. Like, not all of them are brand new or anything like that, right? You've got the creative team. One of them sells out. One of them wants to stay true to the purity of the project, the art, that sort of a thing. But, every movie handles that different. They all have different things to say about it, right? So as far as that goes, pitting the making money and selling out and moving on, that Keys, I think was his name, right?
Yep.
He goes that route. And then Molotov girl, I don't remember her character's name.
Millie Rusk.
Huh?
Millie Rust.
She's the one, I don't know if she's scraping by or not. I don't remember if they bring up her not making money or anything as a plot point, other than she stays all the time in the coffee shop.
Yeah, and she only buys one small coffee. Yeah. So, I mean.
But she becomes obsessive about proving that they took her code anyway. So how do you think it handled that topic? Did it say anything strongly enough to try and push you one way or the other, or do you think it was kind of a wash?
You have to be more specific with the question.
So the good
interplay
guys,
between
are split up. One of them goes the sellout route. One of them doesn't. Are they trying to tell you that you should never make money? Are they telling you to be true to your art and everything will turn out okay? Like, what is their messaging? What are they trying to tell you about each side of that topic?
Well, I think you could form an opinion about this, but and I don't want to blow right through this question. But I think if you're stopping to ask this question, then you either didn't finish the film, or you're focusing on the wrong thing.
Okay.
Because I don't think it matters, right? Like, it does. I think the idea is, because of the bigger things that this movie frames around what's important and what is important to spend time on.
Mm-hmm.
That, if anything, the fact that these two characters have started together but gone down different paths, only represents the fact that you can be at diametrically opposed places in life and still find value in the same things.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's kind of vague because we haven't really dove into like some of the more specific points of the film, or kind of where the film resolves.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea that they're split, I mean, it is kind of tropish. But again, for where I think the film ends up, for what it's trying to ultimately say, or actually even in some cases not even trying to say a thing, but just ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which again, I think if done well is one of the best things that films can do instead of trying to answer those questions. Then all it does is set the viewers up to have two different perspectives, to find that when they come to these questions towards the end of the film, or they're wrestling with them throughout the film, that almost all people can relate to those questions being answered. Because whether you feel like you're the guy who's given up and sold out, or you're the girl who stayed true to art and not, sold out for money, you both are asking very similar questions about what's important in life and how you get there. So your question's dumb, and I don't think we should ask it.
Your answer is what I was happy the film did, actually, was it, because there are a lot of movies and stories that want to frame those as the impetus. That's the whole thing. One side is righteous, the other side is evil, kind of a thing. And I like that they just said it didn't really matter. I liked that you could, take care of the bills, and that's a justifiable thing to do. And you could stay true to your art and your purpose and have a higher calling, and you're not going to, let your children starve or something like that.
Well, and I think you're right that they say that it doesn't really matter, but I don't know that it says that nothing is evil, because like it is very clear about who Antoine is.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's very much it comes down on a side, because eventually when the chips are down, Keyes has to make a decision, right? And he chooses the right side. It doesn't judge him for going to work for Tsunami, but it does say, at the moment where it matters, he actually does sort of step up, I guess. Be the best way.
There is a turning point.
I mean, if I could take it one step further, then I would say that it almost doesn't really matter, like where. I mean, it feels like two of our main characters are, because I would argue that they're not really the main characters, which I don't think is like this, amazing idea that I've come up with. But I think.
Wait, you're saying that a movie with Ryan Reynolds in it cast Ryan Reynolds as the lead,
that has a title that is Free Guy after that character isn't, in fact, a side character, but is the main character, possible?
Do some math.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
This isn't Blade Trinity, so. But I think that's the thing that makes the film well. There's lots of things that make the film work well. One of the things that make the film work so well is that it really does focus on Guy and his journey. And even though we are probably meant to relate to the human beings, the people who are outside of the world, more, like Guy's journey is the arc of the film. His is the moral bend of the film,
right?
That we get hooked on, and these the real human being people, while they do have their interpersonal conflict, are mostly just being changed or affected by Guy's journey,
right?
As opposed to you create an artificial intelligence, and a lot of you'll get cases where it's the human having to like. Recognize or teach the AI something, or teach the alien or the morally ambiguous or morally infantile person or entity how to become moral. In this case, it's the reverse.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think that had me from about a third of the way into the movie when I was like, wait a minute, what is this movie about?
Yeah.
And it had me hooked to the end. Like, well, like my wife and I, we went in and we were just expecting, handfuls of popcorn, right? Ryan Reynolds being self-aware, Ryan Reynolds, which, I mean, to me is something that I thoroughly enjoy. That's what I wanted. But like I said, about a third of the way in, we're getting to the point in the film where he's needing to level up and he's needing to decide how he wants to move through this world that has that has been revealed to him. And we're like, uh-oh, like, did this just get like super interesting? Spoilers. Yeah. Yes. I mean, it did get super interesting. So, I mean, which would lead to one of my first observations about the film. And I think something that most films that I see deal morally usually talk about good and bad more than they show like the moral conflict between doing so. And this hyper real, I mean, the video game world where things tend to be black and white, watching a character decide that he was going to level up and then ends up leveling up faster because he helps people as opposed to doing what everyone else goes in to do. And then this running like a narrative thread through the entire film of making an argument that people mostly want to do good. It's just easier to do bad. That was one of the first things that I had to wrestle with. Because I mean, I don't even know if that's true, but I love the idea of it and being in a movie about a video game dude possibly becoming self-aware. That was something I had to wrestle with.
Yeah, I think the other layer on top of that too is, like you said, the game is based on people doing whatever they want and getting away with it. So they're going to blow up as many things and do the baser, more evil actions to play through it. And then the layer above that is Antoine, like we talked about, doing the baser, evil type things to make that game successful, to make it more shallow, more violent, more this, to be successful. But at the same time, even amongst that success, then the audience kind of turns, and it's like all of a sudden Guy is more important almost than the game is. Like, he's more famous. People are dressing up like him. People are, like, he's ready to get skins of him to sell to people. He's making Guy 2.0 ready down the pipe, because they're going to capitalize on this. And it's interesting in that for Guy to have as much influence, he needed that core audience there to see him do that.
Yeah, he needed his small group of like apostles that were willing to really advocate about his character and goodness. And then for good or bad, there was this entire organized structure that was built on top of it. I think that's what we're getting at. Well, I think it's inadvertently like not every protagonist is a Christ figure, right? And I don't think that really they're trying to make Guy a Christ figure in this movie, but I do think there is something inherently compelling to our nature to be inspired by someone being incredibly countercultural, right? So again, we're using these terms very loosely because we're talking about a video game character. I mean, a self-aware video game character at the end of the day, but we're talking about a person who is put in a world where it seems like the best and easiest way to get ahead is to do the least empathetic, most selfish, most carnal thing and forget about it, free of consequences, because it makes you feel the best. And in this world, this hypothetical world that we can only find in video games, we have someone who has decided that it's not about I mean, this is where it breaks down. It's not wholly about power, even though he's trying to level up. So like I said, the metaphor does break down, but it's not about like power to be better than other people. He's just trying to do good because it seems like a way that isn't harmful. And it's compelling. And the beautiful thing is it's compelling. Like I said, outside the game, he becomes video game famous. Inside the game, people are wanting to like take selfies with him, even like the toughest.
But first, like
they're being
he doesn't succeed right away, right? Like his first attempt at this just does not go well. Like he has chosen this better way, but it's a harder way, and he is not immediately like right off the bat successful. He has a lot of trouble there at the beginning. Like you see him, that sort of montage where he just wakes up over and over because he keeps dying for one reason or another.
He was getting resurrected. I mean, it's just, closer to reincarnation. But anyway, I just wanted the running joke to go.
But it's nice that they don't only show him affecting the humans either. He's changing the video game characters around him as well, right? There's the like obvious like blonde bombshell type character, and then she like writes a gender power struggle book or something like that, and it's just.
You mean a memoir on gender roles in the patriarchy?
Along those lines, yeah.
A little preachy in parts, but yeah.
I haven't read that one. I've read other ones, but not from the video game character yet. But yeah, it was cool seeing him, and not everybody's quick to even acknowledge it's possible for him, right? His security guard friend is like, I don't even want to look in those glasses that you're offering me right now, even if what you're doing is good and getting you all this stuff. He's like, I'm freaked out by it. But yeah, it's very interesting because, like you said, most of the time what they're going to do is they're going to have the protagonist do the wrong thing, learn from it, and then start to try and do the good thing, right? It's like, oh, we could go the easy route, and I'm going to, get to rock bottom, then I'm going to realize, oh, it's time to put in the hard work and start doing it the right way, and then I'll get what I want. And again, none of the metaphors are perfect because, like, he is being altruistic in a way, but the whole point is to get the girl at the same time. So it's a little selfish, right? He just wants to level up so he can be around her, and but yeah.
Well, I mean, like, yes, it's selfish, but
yeah.
Again, if we want to be generous with the interpretation, which I do because I like the film, and I'm going to give it as generous as possible, right? So, my cards on the table. Honestly, he has experienced love, right, for the first time ever, and the best the thing he understands is love. So again, upon experiencing a love that is more real, or has manifested itself in a way that he only thought was fictitious before. Fictional.
Sure.
He thought was only fictitious before. He is now willing to sell everything to acquire it, right? Like, he's willing to get rid of, like, everything else is superfluous. His life, his comfort, even to a certain degree, his friends, even though he's not abandoning his friends, he is willing to go on without the approval of his friends. His friends actually saying, no, don't do that. That's wrong, what you're meant to do, because he has encountered this love that he has never encountered anywhere else. It's in fact opened up. I mean, in the movie, it awakens his artificial intelligence, but it's effectively opened his eyes to a whole other reality that now that he has seen, he cannot go back to.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's part of what Buddy is afraid of when he offers him his the sunglasses and says, try these on. I think he doesn't want to be exposed to that bigger world. He's happy with the world as it is, and his reaction, Guy's reaction when he finds out that he's an NPC is like, the entire world is fake and I'm not even the main character. Like, I think that's the thing that Buddy is really afraid of. But going even further to like that world opening moment, right? That's not just experiencing love and having the world open to you. That's experiencing the love that you were written for. Like he was literally written to find Millie, not just like find somebody like Millie. He was written to find her in particular, that specific person. He says, maybe that's my programming talking, but guess what? Someone wrote that program. I'm just a love letter to you. Somewhere out there is the author. Like that. Like he's got it in his code. He I think he calls him the Lovelorn or something like that, like as the character, and that's what he's looking for, because that's literally what's like coded into his DNA, his digital DNA. And so I think that's even deeper than just having your mind exploded by love. It's your mind exploded literally by the love that you were meant to find.
Yeah, I mean, like when we got to the end of this film, I was almost like my wife and I were talking about the things that we were experiencing in the film, and like again, like some of these metaphors, and it almost felt like so obvious that we were kind of almost embarrassed to talk about it, because it almost seems like the perfect youth pastor like illustration, where it's oversimplified and it fits a little too well. And then, in the context of the whole film, it doesn't actually make sense. But these things, like these metaphors, I think are there. And while I mean, anything's possible, right? But my guess is that whoever's writing this isn't writing it because they're like, you know what? This really reminds me of my relationship with Christ. And my faith.
Right.
I think they're just trying to work out, like what would it take to change somebody? What would it take to make you want to be a better person? What things that you would typically see in more films, like something that's like got more of a humanist bent. Like what makes me want to do good in spite of the world around me doing not good. And maybe it's just the fact that they were trying to tie a love story in it, and that's how we get like such great lines like, I'm just a love letter, somewhere out there is the author. But again, if we believe the things that we usually say on these shows, or we have historically and took a break from, like that inside us, whether we know it or not, exactly like Guy, there are these things that are written on us that we desire and that we have questions about and that we want to know about, and that we can't exist without exploring or at least thinking about.
And so when we're walking down the street and we hear somebody singing that song, we're like, I love that song, because it's already there in our heads playing anyway. Like, I mean, you're right. It seems way too cheesy. Like, this movie is written for this podcast and this website in particular.
It's like, thank you. You made our jobs way easier. We're trying to figure out how we could jump back into this after taking a hiatus. How about you just write a movie that basically explains why we exist? Thanks. Okay. Awesome.
Nice work. Thank you.
Could you just tack on the end that he's trying to get to like this utopia, this promised land that other people can't see? That would make it just so much better, so much easier.
Right. And
if only it didn't break down,
Right. If you could maybe put in there a part where he's actually literally standing on the beach proclaiming liberty to the captives and freedom for the exile. That would be awesome as well. Like okay, I the last time I watched this, it occurred to me the NPCs are literally living in exile, and he's proclaiming liberty to the captives and telling them that they are meant for more than you could not you couldn't have written a more direct letter to what we're trying to do here, because all of that just goes together to underscore the motion of what the motion and emotion, I guess, of what Guy is doing, as he's trying to save the world and also find the thing that he is meant for. I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling now, but I'm circling around an idea that I can't quite get to. Almost like I'm flipping the blinds and seeing something in the reflection.
You can't quite remember.
Can't quite remember.
Yeah, it's there, but you didn't really. Well, I'll say this too. I know 100% that we've mentioned this before. For all of our faithful fans out there, like they're like pet peeve is co-opting someone else's story to make it say what you want because it's convenient.
Yeah.
Right. Again, this is my youth pastor comments earlier. Youth pastors are notorious. I mean, head pastors too. Anytime people talk about a movie from the pulpit, I get very queasy. I get very squeamish because I'm like, they're gonna mess it up. And often I have good reason to think so because, again, in the context of the whole film, usually their metaphors break down incredibly fast. But I don't think it's that hard to make this film reflect things that we're longing for, reflect things that Christianity has the answer for, reflect actually views that I believe Christians should have, and understandings that Christians should have. This plays out more like a parable of the Christian life, than it does a random movie about a guy coming to life in a video game. And the parallels are too great, and I don't want to. I don't know where the writers of Free Guy were when they wrote this, spiritually or even physically. But like the fact that it comes out this way, I feel only serves to why we do this in the first place. And but I want to be very careful, since we haven't had a chance to say it in a while, to make sure that the goal of this podcast isn't just to, put a Christian spin on every secular film, right? It's to basically call out the longings that we can easily see. And lots of times that's us having deep discussions about something that might be out of left field or might only be touched on by the narrative of the film we're watching. But in this particular case, again, it feels more like a parable than it does like these looming questions or this loose affiliation to something that we're interested in or that Christianity can speak to.
And like a parable, it is able to teach us something about ourselves, right? Or about our faith. In this particular instance, I think, going back to him literally evangelizing on the beach and proclaiming liberty to the captives, he's evangelizing, and that evangelism is a hope for a better world, which is not entirely dissimilar from what true evangelism in the Christian sense is, because we're talking about a hope for a future that is better and more complete and more perfect for our natures, more lines up with who we are supposed to be, who we were coded to be from the beginning. And that evangelism is not only personal and individual, but corporate and communal. And I think that what we're seeing when we're seeing him do that is all of those things together. And I don't think that's a reach. I think that's directly there in the script and lines up exactly, or I mean, close enough to exactly, to what we're hoping for. We're not proclaiming a gospel of a better world just off in the distance. But we're proclaiming the gospel of a better world that's just off, in the future, and we can be a part of that, right? So I think that's beautiful, and to also watch that spread. You see it start off when he decides to order a cappuccino in the coffee shop, like halfway through or whatever, and you see the tank literally rolling by, and it literally points its cannon right at his head as he's like trying to convince her to make a cappuccino for him. But you see the seeds of this like sentience starting to leak out of Guy and into the barista, and then, like you were saying, into Bombshell, and it just starts getting into everybody. And eventually they all are working together and having, and being a part of a community, trying to save each other, trying to make life better for all of them so that they can survive long enough for Guy to find this land that is going to save them all, right? And like I said, again, I don't think that's a reach. I don't think that that's pulling something out of the film that's not there. I think that that's all there in the text. Maybe not exactly meant this way, but it resonates on our heart the same way because it does point back to the truer, more real thing.
Yeah. Well, I'd take it a step further too. You said something that is like coming, or something that will eventually be.
Yeah.
I would say the reality of it is much like the reality that we believe that we live in. It's not just something that is going to eventually happen. It's not the Christian life isn't about us making it through here until we get to the good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Until we jump and we get to heaven or whatever. Like it's not just about heaven. Like the reality is that the kingdom, like this is the kingdom,
right?
It's just sometimes very, very well hidden.
Yeah.
Like in the reality that we're already in.
For sure.
God doesn't not care about the present. He doesn't not care about the physical. It's not just like, oh, heaven is as far away in the clouds thing. Like this, like your kingdom come, like it's here, like it is and it isn't. The already and not yet.
Right.
Right. The mystery of that is actually presented again in a very real way, where it's this place that they're trying to get the life itself game.
Right.
It's underpinning everything in the world. Those rules, that programming, it's how everything runs, and no one understands it because it's been changed so much from, again, its original intent, its original programming. So they think that it's something they have to go find. I mean, and metaphorically, it is something that for cinematically, it is something they physically go find, but it is also underpinned like in everything they do. It's what creates the AI. It's what it's what makes people start to learn after coming in contact with this stuff. So it's not foreign at all. And I to also round out, before I forget about this too, that when you talk about how how Guy engages with people, and is calling them to like this freedom and this knowledge, I think one of the things that hit me on rewatch is the conversation that he has when he's trying to get his friend to put on the glasses. And he's like, just put on the glasses, and, put the glasses on, you're gonna see. And when he eventually refuses because it's too comfortable, it's too easy, it's too understandable to look at the world around you like it is and be like, I can't deal with anything more complicated than this or anything different than I'm used to. This is the control I have. He said he's not like mad at him. He doesn't chastise him for being too stupid or short-sighted or weak, anything like that. He just says, you change your mind, I'll be around.
Right.
And wouldn't it be great if more evangelism looked like that? If in a world where so many people are deconstructing their faith or trying to relearn or maybe even learn for the first time these things that were bastardized or confused or taken for granted in their younger years, if the message to people was, if you change your mind, I'll be around, or even just take the first part off, like you're not mad, you're not you're not dumb, you're not stupid, you're not slow, like I'll be around.
Right.
Like how that's just so powerful. And it's, like I say, it's inspiring and it's challenging. Because so often we, when we see something that changes our lives, we want everyone to think the same way.
And I think that love that Guy has for Buddy, it's shot throughout the film, right? It's a real emotionally affecting, honest friendship between two guys. We don't see that very often, right? Like that's unusual. And contextualizing it within a video game maybe makes it a little bit more, like, maybe a little bit less weird to the Western male mind. I don't know. Maybe that's why it doesn't hit as like unreal or otherwise bad. But it also, like, it bears dividends. Like, so Guy says to Buddy, life doesn't have to be something that just happens to us. And then he says, if you change your mind, I'll be around, like you were saying. And then later on, he's having his crisis of faith. Where does he go? He goes to Buddy. And he says, what would you do if you found out that you weren't real? And Buddy says, I would say, after he makes a joke, he would say, I'd say, okay, so what if I'm not real? And Guy says, if you're not real, doesn't that mean nothing you do matters? And he says, what does that mean? Look, I'm sitting here with my best friend trying to help him get through a tough time. And even if I'm not real, this moment is right here, right now. This moment is real. I mean, what's more real than a person trying to help someone they love? If that's not real, I don't know what is. And it's the same love. It's the same like complete devotion to this person, to the exclusion of your own like needs in this particular moment. Like, my friend needs this thing right now, and if they're willing to take it, I am willing to give it to them. And just being able to sort of bounce off of each other like that, it bears dividends from the beginning, which I thought was really a really lovely thing. And going even further, like all of that even pulls out into the real world, right? Mm-hmm. Like because Guy is not just changing his world, he's also changing the real world, at least a little bit, at least for the people that are sort of surrounding it. The hope for a better world makes its way into the security guards in Tsunami. You sort of see them gathering around watching. Makes its way to Chris Evans, though maybe not in necessarily the most positive way. And then, of course, to Millie and Keys, who Millie realizes sort of in a flip, like we've been talking about, the creators as, creators, but now let's flip it around and talk about the fact that Millie has realized all of a sudden that a deep love is the crown jewel of Keys' creation, and she has a part in it. Mm-hmm. It's a creation built on love, and she is sort of at the center of it. And I think that could not be more telling of the fact that like we're able to see this all the way through. We see Guy loving Buddy and loving Molotov Girl, and then we see the reality of that. This creation was built on love, and that doesn't do anything but echo into our world and into the way that our viewpoint of our world. And I think that's just a really lovely gift that they've given us, is this hope for a better world.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head by starting off with the Guy and Buddy relationship there, because it was funny. Mm-hmm. I liked a lot about the movie, but the scene right before that where Keys and Molotov Girl are on the street, it just hit like a sour note. I was like, what was that? Like, she watched the video about him making the algorithm and whatnot, and she just sees him on the street, and it was like, I don't know, Sleepless in Seattle or some sort of like super romantic movie kind of moment, and they go out into the street without saying a word. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would he stop getting food to, like,
because of the look in her eyes, Ryan. Yeah. Because she looked at him.
But it was just like a weird gong, and I was like, well, you were doing good up until that point. I was with you. You had good special effects. You had good humor. You had good timing. Takeaway, TD was ridiculous enough. It was great. And you hit that note. I'm like, what was that? And then it followed up with Buddy and Guy. And I was like, oh, so that contrast really just soured that even more. But I was like, okay, you won me back afterward. But kind of reminded me of like David and what's Saul's son's name? Jonathan. David and Jonathan. How it's like maybe the bromance is more impactful than romance sometimes, which was pretty good. But overall, it was very good. Like I said, CGI was great. It was, like I said, Looney Tune style physics, but it was like, it was done well. It was like a believable Looney Tunes. It stayed true to its suspension of disbelief. So you didn't have to be like, well, that's not realistic. It's like, well, of course not. It's all cartoon, but it's all the same cartoon. It's like, for And that's a hard thing to do. Lightsabers and Captain America shields and portal guns and, they threw everything in there. So they still got that wonderful Ryan Reynolds humor in there.
Together and smashing stuff.
The only thing that threw me off was the reboot. Do you remember the reboot section? They reboot. He wakes up and he has no memory. So then she has to go jumpstart his memory again the same way. And so it's 2 parts. So he didn't have his memory, and she said there was no button for kissing, and then she kisses him to get him to remember. It's like, well, if he kissed her, he found the button, that whole joke. That works. But then she goes and she initiates the kiss. Well, how did she do that? Did she find new buttons on the keyboard, or what was going on with that? But then, like you said, he rallies all the NPCs. How do all the NPCs know to listen to Guy? They don't have any memory of what's been happening. Bombshell hasn't written her book in her mind. It's all a clean slate.
But they know each other. Like, they're programmed to know each other. They're programmed for community.
Yeah, to the point where if you order a cappuccino instead of your regular coffee, you're going to get shot by a tank.
But the tank was that was a player. That was a player. No. But at the beginning, they're all friends, right? They're all friendly.
As long as you're sticking to your lane and doing exactly what you've always done, then you're friends. You start to do something different. No. Something's wrong.
They're just confused. They're not going to hurt him. Like
you just said,
the police officer says somebody's going to get shot, but it was the player that was going to shoot him. It was not him.
The player was going to shoot him for ordering coffee.
The player was just going to shoot him. I mean,
I don't think that was the scene. I think it was the NPCs. The military NPCs were going to shoot him for doing something wrong. The police officer was standing up. No, that was the NPCs. So, other than that,
I've had enough of hearing your sour grapes. What was your favorite part of the movie?
That's a hard one. Like I said, everything up until that point was great. Like, the tone was good. The casting was great. I was having trouble, even in a tired state, finding things to pick at that movie. And even those don't break it. It's just, there's always room for improvement.
They may not be, like, strictly speaking, narratively true, or they may not strictly be speaking, like, within the bounds of the narrative, but they're narratively true.
Yeah, so. Yeah. It made sense for pacing and stuff, and it would have killed the momentum if they tried to find a way to explain that to get to that scene. Yeah. But if you wanted to pick, you could.
I think Key's programmed a new button for her. Anyway, Mikey, what was your favorite part of the movie?
Man, I don't know if I have like a favorite part. There's so many things that I loved, little lines or scenes. I feel like I am notorious for those people who watch things with me that I rarely get giddy about something, right? I rarely what they call pop. Like I never audibly gasp or jump out of my seat because you see enough movies, you kind of it's hard to be surprised, right? So there were a number of lines that I really liked. I mean, especially since lots of them were like small asides, right? Like there was like she wrote a memoir about gender roles in the patriarchy. I was like, that's great as a throwaway line. I love the small jabs at culture, trying to, which I think have a dual purpose. They're not just jabs at culture. They're showing that despite the fact that this is a video game and we're not supposed to take it seriously, there are eerie similarities when they are giving the speech to the people and they say, how about this? What is that like in real life? And then he gets to, what about gun violence? Is there? And she's like, actually, gun violence. It's actually a huge problem. Like that, I was audibly guffawing in the theater. I don't want to harp on Dude too much because I think he's probably a lot of people's favorite
catchphrase
part of the film. Because Dude was great. Catchphrase, and then Taika Waititi being like, oh, that's catchphrase isn't and then we has the list this thing like, I'm here, I like kicking and TBD and third thing here.
As a developer, that is so very real.
So I mean, all that stuff is funny. I was, again, as I say, probably every episode now, I found myself like in tears at the end. Like I was laughing and then I was crying, because just of how it was wrapping up and how it was connecting and beautiful. But probably the thing that I didn't think I would pop for the second time, but I still did, was when he has Captain America's shield. Because it's so random. And then when they cut to Chris Evans, like I almost couldn't breathe because I was laughing, and it felt like it was like this game of like one-upsmanship, right? Like, Captain America's shield, it's awesome. But then it cuts to Chris Evans, it's even better. But then he pulls out a lightsaber, and just because of my understanding of like how movie rights and things work, the fact that he had a lightsaber, and as soon as the lightsaber came up and you heard the sound, I turned to Laura and I said, I can't believe they got a lightsaber. And he goes, and then they're cutting to all the people being like, is it? And somebody said, that's a lightsaber. Which in and of itself is like, I mean, it's such a layered joke, because you can't say that. Without paying Lucasfilm a lot. Well, I guess Disney now lots and lots of money.
Which is Century Fox movies.
Century Fox, But
also, like the way that the development cycle worked, I can totally believe that they dropped that like 3-minute sequence in at the last minute after the acquisition when they finally had access to all that stuff. They were like, "Hey, Papa Disney, can I use a lightsaber in Captain America's shield? Can I use Chris Evans? Can I put all this stuff in?"
He apparently just called Evans on the phone and it's like, "Hey, are you free this day?" And he says, "Yeah." "You want to do this?" "Yeah." Just kind of like Brad Pitt in the Deadpool movie. Just like, coffee. Yeah, I need a coffee and I'll do it. It's crazy.
I was just, it tickled every single part of my insides. I mean, to go from Cap shield, Hulk fist, lightsaber, like the gravity
score?
Gun. No, I don't care about the music. Well, actually, when it played the Avengers theme, I was like, did they just drop like a, da, 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 like
that's Lord of the Rings, but
like, they when they dropped the gravity gun from Half-Life 2, then the portal gun, like all like in succession, like I was just like, I'm dead. I'm dead.
Well, and they did that placement so right, because like they don't spread it out throughout the movie. They don't make it like, oh yeah, there's another thing. They put it all in one moment. They let it just sort of be the fun, like funny moment at the climax of the movie, and then they just say, okay, and now we're done with that. We're going to do other things now. That's done. So yeah, they did a great job with that.
Well, I'll say one more thing real quick. And it's not necessarily my favorite moment, but it's one of the things that I think would have been the easiest to mess up, but was thematically super consistent. And that was, despite that he had like Avengers weaponry and lightsabers and video game weapons, ultimately he overcomes Dude by showing him the truth. Like he never, like in almost every movie, like the criticism for almost every Marvel movie, right? Like, how do you beat a bad guy? How do you beat a bad guy who punches hard? Right. You punch them hard, right? Yeah. Which is not like, it's fun to watch lots of times.
Yeah.
But it's not. I mean, it's something that's like theologically antithetical to what I believe you should be doing to overcome evil. So he overcomes this bad guy or bad dude by the same thing that he's been doing all. But well, he's a good guy who defeats a bad dude.
But like, Dude is a bad guy.
Is he a bad guy?
He's a bad version.
He seems like
of guy.
He just seems like a super dude.
A super guy?
It's like so much so that is he even a guy anymore? Like, I don't know. Like, I see what you're trying to say. His
programming is different. He doesn't have the same algorithms in there.
Yeah. He's not even complete.
He does have his face though.
But yeah,
more of a face off.
Him. The idea, the thematical consistency is more consistent with the character of Guy than it is through like the entire Marvel universe of people who are trying to keep the peace and whatnot. because ultimately every Marvel movie is a bunch of people who talk with the philosophy of Captain America, but end up acting by the end of the movie with the philosophy of Tony Stark, which is to have the bigger bombs, right? Well, this one is like the guy does good to get ahead, and to overcome evil, he continues to do good even at great sacrifice to himself.
Well, and that's my favorite part of the movie, was the part where he makes the decision to, he says, I don't hurt people. I never hurt innocent people. And she says, well, I don't know if anybody does it, but you could probably level up by being a nice guy. And he just decides to be a hero, and he does. And that sequence of him like saving people and stopping players from, doing awful things and changing people's mind in the real world, even like that is a fun sequence to me. And I really enjoyed that part of the movie.
That's a real hero.
Yeah, exactly. And I just, aside from the little one-liners, like about how God is a troll in the world of Free City, and how
trolls exist.
Do trolls? Yes, exactly. And I just find the order of those threats very confusing, and that whole sequence about taking your skin off and stuff, that was just a really funny thing. And Albuquerque boiled turkey still makes me just amuses me to no end, because I can imagine Taika Waititi coming up with that. But yeah, all of that, the little one-liners aside, like you were saying, I think that the biggest thing for me was just how much they didn't care about it feeling cheesy, that he's just gonna be a good guy. He's gonna be a great guy. Like they're totally okay with it just feeling cheesy. They want it to be like, that's his nature. He's just gonna be like that. And whether or not it feels realistic in our current real world, like it still feels aspirational. Like I want to be that. I want to know those people. And it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
So, just as we're recording this, so when we release it, you guys will be able to watch this on streaming. You don't even have to buy Free Guy to see it. It'll be available for streaming. Right. But just recently,
on Disney Plus in the United States,
I saw a trailer with Ryan Reynolds in it, and I was surprised because he said he was taking a break for a little bit or whatever. Another Netflix project. So that's a ding in the wrong box, right? For a lot of people, they saw Red Notice, they're like, I don't know. But it is the same director as Free Guy. It's called The Adam Project. And the idea is he goes back in time to team up with his 13-year-old self. And it definitely looks funny. Has Zoe Saldana, Mark Ruffalo. Do you think that's enough of the team to trust it to do better than other Netflix fare, or do you think that's not enough?
I mean, I think that Netflix has a solid track record of making exactly what you think they're making. So if it's got these people involved, they saw Free Guy, they saw, hey, people love that, let's make a Netflix version of that. Not like of specifically that type of story, but like that, something that's fun and throwaway, because that's what they make, because they make money, because people want to watch fun, arguably fun to different people, and throwaway stuff. So if there's a movie that comes out on Netflix that does not get talked about as if it was made specifically to win Oscars, I assume that it will be a 3.5 or 3 to 3.5 star film that I'm supposed to watch and say, and then move on. So I haven't. I'm gonna watch the trailer right after this. I got it pulled up. But I assume that once I get done watching the trailer, I'm gonna go, I'll probably watch that, and then I'll watch it. And much like Red Notice, I was like, that didn't hurt me. Like, but people told me it was going to. That was certainly exactly what I was expecting a movie with Gal Gadot, The Rock, and Ryan Reynolds in it to be. Like, so. I don't really, I mean, maybe it's because I inherently love Netflix for some reason that I don't know why, but I feel like if you don't know what you're getting yourself into watching Netflix made movies these days, then you're just lying to yourself.
Or maybe you just haven't had a subscription yet.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds interesting. I would probably watch it.
I mean, at this point, I'll watch basically anything with Ryan Reynolds in it. Like I said, somewhere along before Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds became vastly. Well, I mean, he was probably always aware, but someone became aware that Ryan Reynolds could be amusing outside of just like a kind of funny love interest guy, and he could just be a smart aleck, and his type of humor appeals to me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not all the time and not every single way, but generally, that fourth wall breaking, camera winking, don't you all get it? I mean, it does it for me, and I know it doesn't. I know it's too on the nose for some people and whatnot, and I get it. So
I would like to see Ryan Reynolds remake or reboot rather Green Lantern, because I felt like he was a good fit for the role, and just the script was not great. So after seeing Free Guy, I think he could pull it off.
Now, do they need to take a YTD back with him as well? Because that was part of the the advertising for Free Guy as well. No, this is the first movie we've ever worked on together, right?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I have pretty low confidence that DC is going to do anything right now. So I don't really. I mean, it's not like they're completely striking out.
I recommend their animation if you don't like their feature films.
Yeah, the animated stuff. I mean, but I feel like that's a little bit different. Like, so I mean, yeah, I don't want to get into this debate or whatever, but like, you know, I were like, hey, Shazam was fun, right? Like, the first Woman was 75% really great, but like, I mean, everything else, like, I just don't get it. But they have conditioned me not to get excited about DC movies. I mean, even the Suicide Squad movie that James Gunn did. I mean, I was like, I guess I expected that to be better than it was, and it wasn't bad. It was just there.
Every DC movie, it feels like, is almost like the buzz around it is, this is the one where they really turn it around. And
this is the one where they have a sense of humor.
Right.
No, I don't need that. Like, you don't have to be funny.
Right. Even for the Joker, you don't have to be funny, apparently.
Right.
Yeah. So, well, okay, I do take that back. I am moderately interested in the new Batman movie. And it is mostly because of who's working on it, but
we'll probably review it right here.
I guess go see Free Guy if you haven't. Well, I mean, and like again, by the time this comes out, you should be able to, because again, like, who doesn't have a Disney Plus account now?
Yep.
People who don't have kids.
I don't have kids. Well,
no. And when I say even then, like, if you're going to find somebody, it's probably someone who doesn't have kids.
Yeah. If you have any thoughts about Free Guy or about any of the other movies that we've sort of alluded to or talked about, join our Discord server. It is a whole lot of fun, and you get to talk about stuff and not have your messages scanned by Mark Zuckerberg to learn about your buying habits and sell you ads. So.
That's true, and we're also getting gifts.
Oh, that's
not
right.
Gifts, but gifts. So if you want to see
giving
us
the gifts
looking
giving the gifts
less
of gifts.
than stellar, being a little bit silly, that would be the place.
Speak for yourself.
To go check it out.
But you can find all this stuff out there if you want to find it. It's easy. It's there. You know, we make it so that we can interact with people. The whole point of this is to talk to people and have great conversations about the stuff we see. So hopefully we're not just like mindlessly consuming entertainment. And there's lots of ways to get a hold of us. Again, the Discord server is probably the best way. You can still find the group on Facebook. You can follow us on the Twitters. All that stuff will be in some type of show note form, or again, find us on Discord. And lots of stuff and links below. It really depends on how you're viewing this. A huge thanks to the team at Real World Theology, because they're getting this out on YouTube now. They're getting this out on every single podcast platform that I think has ever existed. We're even on some things that don't even exist yet. We're like that forward thinking at this point. So it's great. We really, really appreciate you guys listening. We hope that being back and being more regular, that it's going to be rewarding for both us and the community, and that we'll be able to invite more and more people in to these conversations, especially on different platforms. So until next time, we want to remind you that story is powerful, and catchphrase. Catchphrase.
Bye.
Bye-bye. This has been great.
Yeah.
We're all enthusiastic.
Yes, it was.
It's been awesome.
Good job, us.
I enjoyed it.